Hey guys, Murasaki here. Today we're going to be talking about 10 classic anime series that are apparently unwatchable today, according to CBR and our favorite here, Daniel Kurland. I see the photo here. I do seem to recognize the face, and I have a feeling I might have covered one of his articles in the past. Not entirely sure, but let's focus on the headline here. I read the entire article, so there's not going to be any raging from my side, or at least not too much of it, but I'm definitely going to show you my disappointment with the ideas pushed in this article. There's been a lot of psyops going on, especially towards older anime fans and older anime, and I want to emphasize here the headline, Unwatchable Today. The article is weird. You would think it talks about qualities that are no longer acceptable. You know, we're talking about problematic content. But if we're gonna go through the article and quickly you will realize that this is simply personal gripes of Daniel here, who for some reason doesn't like this anime, and so he decided to compile a list of 10 classic anime that are quote-unquote not watched by Daniel. That's basically the entire article. But who knows, maybe some of you remember them, maybe some of you are 136 years old just like me, or maybe a little bit younger and do remember all of these stylists and maybe remember them fondly, and this is what I want to hear from you guys in the comment section afterwards. But yeah, let's get down with the list. Number one, before we even get into the article, I just want to read this paragraph here because I found it hilarious. So, shonen battle anime. Of course, he knows all of the stories. You know, he's a critic, he knows them animes. Obviously, he's an expert for CBR. But I'm just gonna read this paragraph before we get into the list because it's really funny. As hard as it is to admit, some classic anime just haven't aged that well. Oh my. And some under the radar series deserve to be forgotten. And you're talking about art. Guys, a serious question to a lot of you artists out there and people who enjoy art. Do you believe that there is art that deserves to be forgotten? I thought art always is meant to be, provocative, thought-provoking. Do you think it deserves to be forgotten? Let's hold on to that thought for longer maybe. Yeah, I think that is enough, and yeah, you can also drop me a line in the comments what you guys think about forgotten art, where it needs to be gone. Series like Cowboy Bebop and Evangelion have stood the test of time. While regarding Cowboy Bebop, I would definitely agree. Regarding Evangelion, I love the series. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the original series. I did like also the manga. And in general, I feel like the only thing that has really aged with Evangelion, the original one, was probably only... Okay, so if you're watching it properly on DVD in high quality, no, it hasn't aged. It's perfectly fine. I think if you're watching it like the TV broadcast, then yeah, obviously the quality, like the graphics quality, is a little, not so great anymore. But it has nothing to do really with the show itself. The content is still great. It's still very dark. It's still very engaging and depressing as well, which Evangelion was meant to be. Now, but anime like Haruhi Suzumiya have become relics of the past. No, I'm sorry, Daniel, they have in fact not. If you go ask any Japanese person who used to be an otaku or still is, and you ask them about Suzumiya Haruhi, do you think they're gonna be surprised? Well, I mean, surprised, if a foreign weeb asks about it, but surprised that you're asking about that specific title? Probably not, because everyone knows what that is, and it is not a relic of the past. And funny enough, there's been, I can't remember if it was this year or the end of last year, but one of the bookstore chains in Japan, Tsutaya for instance, had a collaboration to celebrate the can't remember now, 30th anniversary, 25th anniversary of Haruhi Suzumiya. And yeah, everyone was like, I remember all of the Japanese comments on X that I've seen. Everyone remembers. So no, it is not a relic of the past, and especially if you're like a younger anime viewer, I highly recommend giving the anime a try. I think it's really good. The light novel, is it funnier? Now I'm thinking about this. Probably a little bit. Like, I think, okay, so please do not watch it dubbed. Watch it in Japanese with subtitles, like the original fun subs if you need to. Or read the light novel. The light novel is really good. It's an absolute banger. The light novels, sorry. It's an absolute banger. So yeah, if you don't remember, Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya was the first one. That's the original title. The subsequent novels have slightly different titles. But it's still considered a series. Anyway, Ranma 1.5, or Ranma half. I thought it's Ranma half. I'm confused. Problematic habits overtake the story. Oh boy, that's a great start. Let's see. Rumiko Takahashi is a revered mangaka who excels when it comes to telling playful martial arts shonen stories that don't shy away from romance. I think it depends. If you've read or watched Ranma, of course, that's one thing. But Urusei Yatsura, for instance, play on words as well, a really good one, because it's urusai as in loud, obnoxious, and sei as in star, because Loom is from the stars. Never mind. You're gonna see puns like this very often in anime and manga. This is common stay, I would say. Anyway, Ranma half is a delight and gets a lot of mileage out of its supernatural premise. I mean, supernatural, I guess, yeah, if you consider like spirits and stuff. Unfortunately, Ranma half suffers from a lack of a driving narrative. It's incredibly episodic and loves to reset to the status quo. What if I told you it was not meant to be serious? It was meant to be like a light-hearted comedy, partially exploring not gender identity so much, but like gender roles, for instance. I noticed this. This is specifically a thing in Ranma. I think it's a little bit in Urusei Yatsura as well. But I think Urusei Yatsura, for instance, I think that one leans more towards like classical romance, like kind of like erotic comedy. Here, that's also true for Ranma. If you read the original manga uncensored, then of course this is more like an erotic comedy. It is meant to be fun. It's not meant to be serious, and yeah, therefore it's episodic and loves to reset the status quo, because that is kind of the point of the story. I guess you missed it, Daniel. I'm so sorry. What else do we have here? Ranma half often meanders, and many episodes can be missed without any consequence. I mean, that's what episodic means. Even worse, Ranma half is full of oh no, he did say it. Look at this. Daniel actually said it. Lewd fan service that caters to the male gaze. Oh my god. Daniel, you know what? I'm afraid anime might not be for you. I probably said it in my last video when I talk about Daniel's various writing endeavors. The male gaze. Oh no. What if I told you that Takahashi really enjoyed drawing Ranma and she enjoys the characters, and in Japan it's not nearly for the male gaze? Would that surprise you? I guess yes, because you probably watch anime dubbed and you have no idea about Japanese culture, but whatever. These tendencies were more mainstream when the anime was released, but they feel extremely dated now. They don't, in fact. The reason why you might say so is because you want them to feel dated. Let us stop here for a second. Let's talk about fan service. People who enjoy anime for what it is, unbothered, unbothered and unburdened form of art. Art, okay? It's supposed to provoke. It's supposed to be tantalizing. It's meant to contain fan service sometimes. It's meant to be a little erotic sometimes. If that bothers you, perhaps art is not for you, and therefore you should engage in pure sitcom consumption or something. has been mainstream for a very long time. The only reason why fan service probably is not as mainstream as it used to be is because people like you who kept writing articles like this one here and talking about how all of these series are dated and unwatchable and you really shouldn't touch them. Yeah, this is the reason. I understand you're in support of censorship, but the people who actually watch, like properly watch anime are not. And so get the hell out of the weebdom and please do not ever write articles like this, because very clearly you are not an anime fan, and it's just sad to see. But let's move on to the second one. Love Hina is a harem romance that belongs in the past. I wonder why that is. The original Love Hina manga is a stunning shonen romance that excels in its genre and feels like an examining real... Oh, sorry, it feels like it's examining real characters. Okay. Okay, that is not the impression I got when I was reading it back then. I think a lot of series like this were fairly lighthearted. They were meant to be kind of repetitive, and I don't think they were meant to examine real characters. Like, my god, bro, this is not the Bible you're reading here. Unfortunately, a 25 episode anime and a 3 episode OVA follow-up aren't nearly enough time to do this love story justice. Keitaro and Naru's romance becomes a generic story in the anime, which smooths out any of the more interesting habits. I think the thing that's interesting with Love Hina, no, it was not the first story of its kind, for sure not. But it was, I would say it was a staple. It was a bit of a milestone back then. And if you're thinking of it being generic, I think you're probably thinking in reference to like other stories that came afterwards. Then yeah, obviously, if you've seen a lot of like romantic comedies, then eventually, yes, they become a little repetitive. They fall into tropes within the genre. And then Love Hina is no different in that sense. If you've watched a lot of them and then suddenly you go watch Love Hina, then yeah, obviously, yeah, it might be a little generic. But that's not really the case. You need to go back to the time where you watched it or read it for the first time. That is really the story. You can't retrospectively consider these stories in that sense. Like, you need to think of them for the time when they were released. They were the first ones. They were establishing the genre, okay? That's fairly important here as well. I don't mean in that sense they're unwatchable or they're boring by today's standards. Is that you need to add the historical context to this to understand why they're relevant. Not only is Love Hina one of the most problematic 2000s anime. Oh no. Are we... Oh my god. There's another list. Okay, that's probably for another time, I guess. 2000s anime. Oh my lord. Daniel, I see you're on a roll. Are you some kind of like a psyops agent? You're trying to demoralize people into not watching anime? I don't know, man. This list so far is absolute bangers. But Studio Quebec also struggles with the anime's visuals. It has a very bland aesthetic that doesn't do it any favor and makes it seem even more forgettable. I can tell that this person has watched it retrospectively. That is not a bland aesthetic. That is a one of the common aesthetics in the 2000s. So yeah. Also Studio Quebec. You will recognize their style. So again, not bland. Love Hina felt like a cutting-edge romantic comedy upon its release, but this clunky harem anime is now just a reflection of how much the genre has evolved. So yeah, in a way is what I said, that yeah, you had multiple other titles afterwards. But again, when you read this sentence, when you read this one last sentence here, you will understand that Daniel has watched the anime way later after reading the manga. This is very telling. He's doing this retrospective thing where he's no longer considering his own feelings even when the manga was released, when he probably read the manga, because like he speaks very fondly about the manga and he complains about the anime. That straight away tells me that he has not watched the anime back then. He probably watched it way later, and this is very telling. Fist of the North Star is a product of its time. Absolutely is not. Fist of the North Star is absolutely amazing to this day. The only thing I want to say here is that you need to watch it in the highest quality, because the majority of the releases, the majority of the versions of the anime you're going to see online, you're going to see on streaming services, I think, are going to be very low quality. You're going to get the, as I mentioned before, the TV broadcast version very likely, and this one obviously is super downscaled and in just general poor quality. So you wanna get the DVD. You probably want to get the DVD. If there's like a kind of remastered version on DVD, then or on Blu-ray even, you probably want this. If it's like properly upscaled, you probably want this instead of just watching what you see here, because this one's the downscaled one. This is from the TV broadcast, and then you can see that it's kind of like not really blurry, but like it lacks detail, in my experience as well, I want to say. It's a pivotal action series that many anime fans have likely heard of. I hope you have actually watched it, but might not have actually seen. What? No, you have to be joking. It chronicles the adventures of Kenshiro, the Fist of the North Star, a deadly warrior who makes his ways in a violent dystopia. This anime established many important shonen staples, but Fist of the North Star was released in the 80s. Yes, it's been a while. I remember. And it shows. In what sense? There's problematic pacing and storytelling that turned the anime's 100 episodes into a chore rather than a joy. My guy. Surely you can take the time out of your day to watch the whole thing, in episodes. A modern Fist of the... No, please don't say things like this. No, get out, get lost. Modern Fist of the North Star remake is about to premiere on Prime Video, which further proves that the original has fallen out of grace and is long overdue for an update. Let me remind you that one of the biggest reasons why remakes are such a hit is not because that the series needs to be remade and it looks like this and therefore it's poor quality and therefore it needs to be remade. The primary reason why remakes are being made nowadays versus like new products is because they sell. Is because there is an established and a very strong viewer base that would really enjoy the anime, and there's a way to cash in on these people and potentially get some new people into the series, but primarily to cash in on an established franchise and on an established fan base. That is the primary reason. Please don't ever think that massive companies like Amazon do it out of the goodness of their heart. They watched Fist of the North Star and they thought to themselves, guys, this is such an amazing anime, we really need to remake it. No, that is not the primary argument, Daniel. I'm very sorry. Yeah. Slayers offers silly magical mayhem without any substance. I mean, define substance. What do you mean by substance? Where's the substance? Like, it's a bit of a romp. Like, it has a story. It's a decent story. It is not the strongest story ever. It's about slaying dragons and demons. It is what I kind of liked about Slayers back when I was more watching it than reading. I have to admit, back then I somehow didn't really like the art in the manga so much. I did primarily watch it. However, I did watch several times. I did watch the whole thing. I've watched Slayers, Slayers Next, Slayers Try several times. I really enjoyed all of them. But yeah, let's be honest. Even back then, this was not exactly anything but just standard epic fantasy. It was a really good series, but it was not supposed to be groundbreaking in any way. Like, we're not talking about, I don't know, Legacy of Kain here, or any like a super plot dense title or series. Okay, it's more like I have a feeling like Magical Stabber Orphan, or whatever the title was back then, Majutsu Orphan. This one I think had more of a story, and the story, even though it fell apart really after the first season, but that had more of a story than I think Slayers, but Slayers was still really good. Modern anime audiences may be completely oblivious to Slayers. Sadly, you shouldn't be. Go back and watch these, they're amazing. A prevalent fantasy adventure comedy that produced over 100 episodes across 6 separate series. Oh my gosh, I only mentioned 3. Crazy. No, there were several seasons of each, I think. Slayers was a bona fide fantasy franchise during the 192000s. Yes, that's what I kind of mentioned, like a high fantasy, basically. However, its lack of impact only a few decades later speaks to how its style of comedy, characters, and storytelling very much products of their time. What? No, like if you show Slayers to literally anyone who's like an older anime fan, they will instantly recognize it. It's not recognized nowadays because, I'm sorry to say this, a lot of the newer anime fans, especially the so-called COVID weebs, they typically only watch, the anime of the season, and that's basically it. They don't really go deeper. They don't watch older shows, and they also very often, what really annoys me, they really watch only like one series, like One Piece or Jujutsu Kaisen, for instance, or Dragon Ball, and that's basically it. They don't watch anything else, which makes them less of anime fans and more One Piece fans, I gotta say. But yeah, that's, different story, different time. Product of their time. The broad adventures of Lina Inverse, a powerful sorceress. I'm looking forward to seeing some kind of comment about how problematic this is. With a short fuse, that was really funny, by the way, are entertaining for what they are. It just feels like the abundance of modern fantasy anime like Konosuba. Bro, don't even compare this to Konosuba. And even Overlord are more successful examples of the same idea. My guy, in a couple of years, I find it funny that you bring up Overlord. I'm pretty sure that in a couple of years, you're going to say the exact same thing about Overlord, and you're going to have a chance to write yet another sloppy article like this one, where you say, oh, Overlord, it was good for its time. It was fundamental to the fantasy genre, but otherwise, it's not really good. I don't like it's. I'm just looking at the photo of this guy here, and I'm thinking like he's probably in his like 30s or something. I have no idea, and I'm just a little surprised because it's both like a very weird misplaced nostalgia, but like with a lot of like hate towards these past series, and in general just like underplaying their relevance. I don't know why do you do this. Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, the original TV series. Just look at the characters here. It's the first one, the first TV series. Crumbles under the weight of its universe. Okay. It's easy to sometimes dismiss Yu-Gi-Oh! As a hollow companion series. Wow. To help sell trading cards. The manga is pretty good. I enjoyed it. But differs because, I did read the manga way later than I watched the anime. I watched the anime, way back in the day, basically. Sue me, okay? I did enjoy it. I thought it brought in a lot of great memes, that we're still using nowadays. Very influential. Cannot underestimate that fact. But the manga is completely different. The manga is way more of an adventure manga than it has like way less to do, I have a feeling, than the card game. Like the card game doesn't really come up until, God, I can't remember, like halfway through the second or the third volume. Like it's not really so super integral to the plot at the very beginning, and even later I feel like it becomes like a part of the story, but it's not the only thing in the story. But the guy says it's become one of the world's highest grossing media franchises with over 10 series, more than 1,200 episodes. Crazy. Unfortunately, those who revisit the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters anime from the early 2000s may be surprised at how nonsensical it is to outsiders. I mean, the primary focus of the anime is the card game. And who are the outsiders? As in, I mean, you could say the same thing about Beyblade. You could probably say, like, imagine someone who has never seen or never played any Pokemon games, who has never seen the cards, has never played Pokemon. What do you think they would feel? Oh my god, what is this, like a dude catching monsters in a ball? That's so weird. I mean, yeah, obviously if someone's an outsider and has no idea about like trading card games, then yeah, it is kind of different. Well, what kind of nonsensical argument this is even? There's not much meat on these bones, yet the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Was still able to connect with fans, move product, and spawn better series. The series or the manga? Which one do you mean? Yu-Gi-Oh's passion and fandom is a testament to this franchise's allure. However, anyone who blindly jumps into this anime, the franchise's second series, is going to have some serious reservations. I don't think so. Like, if you've played that, I would be very surprised, especially if you're Japanese. You definitely know what Yu-Gi-Oh is as a boy, you know, as a dude. Would you be surprised by the anime? Would you have reservations? Also, probably not. Like, how? The Prince of Tennis struggles to justify its long, repetitive length. I have some very harsh words about the Prince of Tennis, actually, I have to say. I've read the manga first. I first read the manga, and I'm going to be honest, I read the whole thing. I pretty much binge read it. I was not very impressed. I think most of it was okay, but it was kind of like a bit of like a one-trick pony, because is that really a spoiler? The main character, you know, was able to just defeat everyone with pretty much the same trick. And then that gets boring very, very quickly, and oh my god, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like this one especially. The ending sucked. Was not as bad as Hikari no Go, for instance. That one was terrible. But the ending was just kind of very underwhelming. I wouldn't say it was predictable. No, it was probably not. But it just felt very lame in general. And that has nothing to do with the animation. That has more to do with the story. But then again, if you are into tennis, then yeah, dude, like, this is the thing. I'm not gonna lie. This is cool stuff, okay? The Prince of Tennis isn't the only tennis anime that wow, really? But it's certainly the most popular. I mean, when it comes to tennis, yeah. Having entertained audiences for over a decade, this anime doesn't necessarily strive for innovation. I mean, back then, we didn't really have many tennis-focused anime. It's comfortable to tell a standard coming-of-age, underdog sports story, albeit this one is focused on tennis. I mean, yeah, obviously. Was released in the 2000s, which means that it was able to avoid many of the pitfalls that drag the majority of sports anime from what kind of pitfalls? Bro, we need to be more specific. Prince of Tennis still hits a point of diminishing returns in an overdone story that runs for Jesus Christ. I don't even remember it being this long. Like the manga, now I remember, because there was the Prince of Tennis and the new Prince of Tennis. Yeah, I forgot about that as well. It could be that was longer than I anticipated, but back then when you had the time to binge read, nah man, absolutely no problem whatsoever. Ryoma's journey of self-discovery through sports quickly begins to repeat hits. Yeah, as I mentioned, it just really repetitive. But yeah, 200 episodes. It's kind of hard to keep that kind of momentum, I think. So yeah. Whoa, wow, 1 degree out of 10. What else do we have here? We're not even halfway through. Jesus Christ. I'm probably going to cut this one a little shorter. The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya tainted its legacy. Oh no. This is absolute blasphemy. Okay, so let's see what is the problem here. Yeah, so let's see here. High school student, yeah, the main character, Kyon, who becomes friends with a reality-altering being. That is her. This works by the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya falls apart during its second season's controversial Endless Eight storyline. How is it controversial? Controversial in what sense? Involves a time loop that Kyon goes through over 15,500 times. This is illustrated through 8 episodes that are essentially identical. Oh yeah, that is true, now I remember. Other than benign visuals and framing being different, it amounts to a tedious experience that's better in theory than in execution. I mean, I feel like if you're reading this as a light novel, then yeah, that's a different feeling though. Many who do decide to check out Haruhi Suzumiya completely skip over this storyline. I mean, yeah, if you've not watched it back then I guess, yeah, people nowadays don't have the patience, huh? Lucky Star Loses is a little too aggressive. I don't know, I didn't think it's aggressive. It's an absurdity, slice of life comedy that quickly became a one because its humor and sensibilities are so seeped in 2000s culture. Let me remind you that a lot of younger people are actually into 2000s and 90s, both culture and music and also fashion, because it just feels better than much of the corpo slob being pushed nowadays. So I don't know what you go and blaming 2000s culture. It was just better, let's be honest here. So yeah, what results is a hyperbolized comedy that functions with a speedy, sketch-like mentality to its ideas and gags. I think it was funny. But yeah, it's too aggressive. Oh no, so bad. Too aggressive. Oof. Slam Dunk is an underdog sports series that loses its hustle. Admittedly, I actually haven't seen that one, so let's skip to the next one. Dragon Ball Z shonen storytelling is plagued by poor pacing. Yes, but there's one caveat here. It actually is not. You only have the pacing problem when you watch it weekly or daily on TV. That is the only time when it happens. When you are able to binge watch it, and you don't need to wait like a month so that Songo flies through the entire planet of Namek and keeps on flying for several episodes. In fact, it is not as painful anymore. It is a way more enjoyable watch. And also, I'm gonna be honest, once you suffer through these boring episodes, the payoff that comes later is absolutely amazing. And only then can you really appreciate this. And 291 episodes, Dragon Ball Z is overstuffed and not an easy commitment. If you compare this to A Prince of Tennis, 200 episodes, mentioned here already, 200 episodes, or the 1200 episodes of the entire series, every single series of Yu-Gi-Oh!, I don't think 291 is quite a commitment anymore. And if you pitch it against either Hajime no Ippo, for instance, or One Piece, I don't think that's a commitment at all. And for a lot of other series, TV series, hardly any commitment. But that's basically it. He's complaining that Dragon Ball Z Kai tells the same story with 100 fewer episodes. Fans who grew up with Dragon Ball Z may struggle to view it objectively. Okay, I feel called out right now. But it doesn't hold up well when it's compared to modern shonen or even modern Dragon. I mean, why are you comparing it to modern shows? In what sense? The pacing, or is it something else? Because I have a feeling there are just some other complaints going on here, and you really just hate this one for some reason. But yeah, as you guys see, this is a lot of a nothing burger. The guy is just trying to tell you shouldn't be watching these series because there's male gaze or because they're quote-unquote boring and repetitive. I'm gonna be honest, folks. I think you should give them a try. Who knows, maybe you're going to enjoy them, and all of us are gonna come out of the story the more wiser. But that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it despite it being over 3 minutes long, and I see you in the next one. Mata ne!